Bertha Russell just declared war, and this time, it's personal. From London's icy ballrooms to New York's cutthroat social circles, every alliance is being tested, and no one is safe. Episode 6 of The Gilded Age Season 3 isn't just heating up, it's ready to explode. Gladys' future, George's empire, and Marian's entire engagement are hanging by a thread. Secrets are spilling, loyalties are shifting, and if you're not paying attention, you'll miss the betrayal that might burn it all down. Let's get into it. Episode 6, titled If You Want to Cook an Omelet, might just be the most symbolic title we've seen this season because it's all about breaking things apart to create something new. And the one doing the cracking, this time, Bertha Russell. She's no longer standing in the background while her daughter's life crumbles under Lady Sarah's control. This episode shows us a Bertha we haven't seen in a while, strategic, fierce, and unapologetically maternal. After flying across the ocean to reclaim her daughter's dignity and position, Bertha wastes no time stepping into battle. And let's be real, when Bertha shows up with that tiara and that look in her eyes, you already know someone's about to be humbled. Lady Sarah thought she had control. She thought Gladys was just a weak little duchess in training, who didn't know how to push back. But what Sarah didn't plan for was the return of the woman who raised her. The scene where Bertha tells Gladys, "If you want to cook an omelet, you have to break a few eggs," feels like a passing of the torch finally. Bertha is teaching her daughter how to survive in a world that's always tried to silence her, and from the look on Gladys's face later, that advice hit its mark. When she and Hector walk away from Sarah, leaving her fuming in the background, it's not just a rebellious moment, it's a declaration that Gladys is done being anyone's pawn. But while Bertha is handling her daughter's future in England, things in New York are unraveling fast. George is still neck-deep in his rail line disaster, and this time, even JP Morgan's face says it all. Whatever deal George thought he had, it's slipping. And what's worse, he's now got a new assistant whispering bad news in his ear. At this point, George is fighting to keep his empire intact, but the cracks are everywhere. And if Larry doesn't step in soon, there may not be anything left to save. Speaking of Larry, his absence is starting to cause real damage. Marian finally finds out he went to the Haymarket, and you can tell this news hits her like a gut punch. It's not even about where he went, it's about trust. This girl has been burned before, and the fact that Larry didn't think to mention something this major on the day of their engagement. It's not just careless, it's triggering. The look on Marian's face says it all. She's wondering if she just repeated the same mistake. If she fell for the wrong man again. And honestly, can you blame her? Now, some of y'all might argue Larry didn't do anything wrong, and, sure, technically, he didn't, but that's not the point. It's about what his silence represented. This isn't just about going to a party. It's about transparency. And when you've been through heartbreak, like Marian has, even small secrets feel huge. The mid-season trailer already hinted at trouble in paradise, with Marian crying and questioning everything, and it seems episode 6 is where that fallout begins. Whether or not they survive this, though, will depend entirely on how Larry handles it when he gets back, if he even comes back in time. Meanwhile, Oscar is finally getting his long-overdue moment with Ma Beaton, and it is tense. You can feel the energy shift when he walks into that room. All season, we've watched Oscar try to clean up the mess she made, losing his money, being humiliated, and having to rebuild everything from scratch. But in episode 6, he stops playing nice. He wants answers, and maybe even revenge. The big question now is whether he's going to use Adam to help him get his money back or something else entirely. The real twist here, Ma might not have even been the mastermind. This whole time, we thought she was the puppet master, but what if she's just another pawn? Some fans have speculated that there's a bigger force behind the scheme, that someone else used Ma to pull Oscar in. And honestly, it makes sense. If Ma is working at the Haymarket now, barely scraping by, then she clearly didn't walk away with a fortune. So where did the money go? That question is going to haunt Oscar until he finds the real culprit. Back in Peggy's world, things are getting complicated fast. She finally opens up to Dr. William Kirkland about her past, about her child, her heartbreak, and the way Mr. Fortune left her with wounds that never fully healed. But instead of feeling supported, Peggy walks straight into another storm. Elizabeth, William's mother, is not having it. She's made it very clear that Peggy is not good enough for her son, and now that she knows about Peggy's past, she's ready to weaponize it. We've all seen Elizabeth's passive-aggressive comments in earlier episodes, but this time, it turns venomous. And what hurts most is that William, so far, hasn't done much to stand up for Peggy. Will he finally grow a backbone and defend her? Or will he fold under his mother's pressure like so many sons of privilege before him? Peggy deserves better. She deserves someone who will fight for her as hard as she's fought for herself. If William can't be that man, then maybe he's not the one. Jack and Ada's storyline also takes a surprising turn in episode 6. Jack is faced with a life-changing choice: stay in the house where he's always been the help, or step out into a world where he has money and power but no safety net. Ada, usually the softer of the two sisters, gives him advice that feels more like a challenge. She wants to know if he's ready for the real world. But behind her words is a deeper fear: if Jack leaves, everything in their household shifts. And from what we've seen in the mid-season trailer, Agnes is not about to help manage that chaos. She's pulling back on purpose, letting Ada feel the full weight of what it means to run a household. And the cracks are already showing. The help is confused, the mood is tense, and Ada looks like she's barely holding it together. It's becoming clear that money doesn't solve everything, especially when you're dealing with decades of power dynamics, pride, and pressure. So, now let's get deeper into the fallout from episode 6, because y'all, this episode was stacked with tension. One of the most uncomfortable and heart-wrenching storylines is Peggy's. We finally see her open up to Dr. William Kirkland in a way that shows how far she's come since season 1. She talks about her lost child, her regrets, and how deeply Mr. Fortune's betrayal wounded her. It's raw, it's honest, and it's probably the most emotionally vulnerable moment we've seen from Peggy all season. And just when you think she might finally be on the path to healing, bam, here comes Elizabeth. Let's talk about Elizabeth Kirkland. This woman is the definition of passive-aggressive, but in episode 6, she stops being subtle and goes full-on cold-blooded. As soon as she learns about Peggy's past, the gloves come off. She sees Peggy as damaged goods, unfit for her precious son. And the worst part, she doesn't even try to hide it. She treats Peggy like a scandal waiting to happen, like she's some sort of threat to their family legacy instead of a woman who has survived more than most people can even imagine. And William, let's just say he's not winning any awards for bravery. We were all rooting for him to finally stand up and say, "This is the woman I love. I don't care what you think." But instead, he does what so many sons of strong-willed mothers do: he freezes. He says nothing. And that silence speaks louder than anything. It tells Peggy exactly where she stands, and y'all, she felt that. The disappointment in her eyes. That wasn't just about Elizabeth, it was about William too. Peggy's arc in this episode is about realization, realizing that no matter how much she tries to move forward, the world still sees her through a distorted lens, realizing that the man she thought could be her partner might not be as strong as she hoped, and realizing that even in moments of joy, the past can still haunt you. But don't count her out. Peggy has never been the type to stay broken. If anything, this moment might just be the fire she needs to take her power back. Switching gears, now Jack Treacher. Our sweet, loyal, soft-spoken Jack is finally at a crossroads. And episode 6 really forces him to think about what kind of man he wants to be. The money changed everything. He's no longer just the valet with good manners and a quiet charm, he's now a man with options. And Ada knows it. Their conversation feels small on the surface, but it's full of big questions. Should Jack stay in the only world he's ever known, or should he take a chance and walk into something new? Something uncertain. Ada, for all her sweetness, surprises us here. She's not begging him to stay. She's testing him. She's pushing him to think beyond comfort, beyond loyalty, and to really consider who he is without the Russell name behind him. But underneath that challenge, you can tell it is scared. Scared of what happens to the house if Jack leaves. Scared of what happens to her now that Agnes is withdrawing and the staff is looking to her for leadership. And y'all, she's not ready. Not even close. The household is already starting to crumble. Mrs. Bruce looks tense, like she's holding in secrets. The staff's rhythm is off. And Agnes, she's watching it all from the sidelines like a queen, waiting for her heir to sink, or swim. It's kind of brilliant, actually. Agnes is teaching Ada a lesson without ever raising her voice. She's letting her sister feel the weight of leadership. And from the look on Ada's face, that weight is getting heavier by the day. But don't be fooled, Agnes isn't just being cruel. This is her way of preparing Ada. She knows that comfort doesn't make you strong, pressure does. And she's applying just enough of it to see what Ada's really made of. Will Ada rise to the occasion? Or will she crumble under the responsibility? That's one of the big questions heading into the next episode. Meanwhile, George is spiraling. He's doing his best to play it cool, but it's clear he's losing control. Every meeting with JP Morgan is another nail in the coffin of his rail project. And the way Morgan looks at him, like he's already written George off as a lost. 'Cause Archit's always prided himself on being the smartest man in the room, the one who sees the big picture when others don't. But in episode 6, the big picture is starting to blur. The most fascinating part of George's storyline right now is how isolated he's becoming. Even Bertha isn't around to support him. She's in England fighting her own battle, and without her sharp mind and social clout, George feels exposed, vulnerable. For the first time in a long time, we see cracks in his confidence, and that's terrifying, because if George Russell is crumbling, it means the foundation of the entire Russell empire is at risk. Now let's talk about Marion. Poor Marion. She really thought she had finally found stability. After everything with Mr. Rakes, after the shame and the whispers, she thought Larry was different. But episode 6 proves how thin that illusion really was. Learning that Larry went to the Haymarket and didn't tell her his more than just a betrayal. It's a reminder that she might always be the last to know, the one being lied to, the one chasing after men who keep her in the dark. And the thing is, Larry didn't even lie, he just omitted. But for someone like Marion, who's already been dragged through the mud of society's judgment, omission feels like deception, especially when it happens on a day as big as their engagement. She doesn't need him to be perfect, she just needs him to be honest. And Larry failed that test. We see her go through every stage of heartbreak in this episode: confusion, denial, anger, and then that crushing sadness that comes from realizing you've been here before. The worst part. Marion starts questioning herself. Was she foolish to trust him? Was she too quick to believe in love again? These are the kinds of thoughts that linger long after the confrontation is over, and while Marion is spiraling emotionally, Larry is still gone. No explanation, no note, nothing. Just radio silence. And that absence starts to feel louder than any argument could. Whether or not Larry can fix this when he returns remains to be seen. But Marion's trust, that's going to take some serious work to rebuild. Then we've got Oscar and Adam, two men who are somehow always dancing on the edge of disaster. When Oscar confronts Ma Beaton, you can feel his rage simmering just beneath the surface. But it's not just about the money. It's about being made a fool of. It's about losing face in a world where image is everything. And you can see Oscar isn't just out for justice. He's out for redemption. The moment that really hits hard is when Oscar and Adam sit together afterward, both looking absolutely crushed. And that's when you realize this isn't just a money problem. This is personal. And maybe even emotional. Are they still entangled in something deeper than business? Or are they mourning the loss of who they used to be before all this mess began? Either way, their story is far from over. Alright, let's dive even deeper. Because episode 6 doesn't slow down, not for a second. After everything that went down with Oscar and Adam, their dynamic is shifting in a way that's got people talking. Remember, these two weren't just acquaintances, they had history, tension, and possibly feelings that neither of them wanted to name out loud. But now, after Oscar's public humiliation and Adam being the only one who truly stood by him, it's becoming clear that their connection is more than just surface level. When Oscar turns to Adam again in this episode, it's not just about comfort. It's about needing someone who still sees him as more than a broken man with a ruined name. And if that emotional bond grows stronger, that could change everything. Not just for Oscar's reputation, but for his identity. Oscar has always hidden behind sarcasm, pride, and power. But in this episode, we get glimpses of who he is underneath all that bravado. And it's not pretty, it's raw, it's insecure, and it's very, very human. That's what makes this storyline so powerful. He's not just fighting Ma Beaton anymore. He's fighting the shame of being taken advantage of being seen as weak, and of letting his guard down in a society where weakness is punished. He's realizing that no amount of money or charm can protect you from betrayal. Not when it comes from someone you trusted. And that's the same realization Marion is starting to have. Her storyline in episode 6 is incredibly relatable because it speaks to a universal fear falling for someone who isn't who you thought they were. Watching her process Larry's absence is like watching someone wake up from a dream. She goes from hopeful and glowing in the early part of the episode, to confused and then completely heartbroken. And the worst part is that she still doesn't have answers. Larry is gone, and with every passing scene, it's like he's becoming a stranger. But let's talk about that mid-season trailer again. because it gave us a big clue about what's coming. There's a scene where Marion is in tears, saying she trusted the wrong person again. That line hits different now. After episode 6, we know exactly what that moment is about. It's the weight of making the same mistake twice, and you can see that fear creeping into Marion's every move. She's not just angry, she's questioning her own judgment. And when a woman like Marion starts doubting herself, it's a sign that her entire world is about to shift. Over in England, Bertha is not playing games, and honestly, this might be her best episode yet. Watching her navigate the cold, condescending world of British aristocracy is thrilling because she doesn't just survive, she owns it. That tiara moment at the dinner table. Iconic. But it's not just about fashion, it's about power. In this society, appearances are everything, and Bertha comes prepared to remind everyone that she is not just some loud American social climber. She's a mother, a strategist, and a woman who knows exactly how to play the game. And let's not ignore the impact her presence is having on Gladys. We've all been waiting for Gladys to wake up, to stop letting Lady Sarah and her cruel little circle treat her like a burden instead of a duchess. And episode 6 delivers that turning point. That moment when Gladys raises her glass to Bertha. That's not just a toast. That's a thank you, a recognition, a shift. She's finally starting to understand who she is, and who she doesn't have to be anymore. But the real question is, can she hold on to that strength when Bertha leaves? Because Lady Sarah isn't just going to walk away quietly. We know she's cunning, manipulative, and used to getting her way. If she senses that Gladys is slipping from her grasp, she might double down. And if Gladys isn't ready to push back completely on her own, this could still end in disaster. That's the lingering suspense, the tension this episode leaves us sitting in. Just because a battle was won doesn't mean the war is over. And let's not forget the subtle but powerful shifts happening back in the Van Ryn household. Agnes, as always, is 10 steps ahead, even when she says nothing. Her decision to pull back and let Ada handle the chaos is not just a test, it's a challenge. And Ada, bless her heart, is trying. But things are clearly unraveling. The help is confused, Mrs. Bruce is suspicious, and Jack's presence as a newly rich man is throwing everyone off balance. There's a moment in episode 6 where Ada has to make a decision about staffing, and it's small but it speaks volumes. She hesitates, she doesn't know what to say. And in that hesitation, you can see all the weight she's carrying. This house used to run like a machine because Agnes controlled every part of it. Now, it's wobbly, fragile, and Ada is realizing that leadership isn't about being nice, it's about being decisive. About knowing what needs to be done, even when it's uncomfortable. And then there's Jack. His arc is so satisfying because it's layered with questions about identity and loyalty. He's suddenly a man with wealth. But wealth doesn't erase his history. It doesn't change how people see him or how he sees himself. There's a scene where he's offered a seat at a dinner table he never thought he'd be welcome at, and the discomfort on his face says everything. Money may have opened the door, but now he has to figure out who he is inside that room. And Ada, she sees that. She sees the conflict in him. And you can tell she's proud, but also scared. Scared that the Jack she's always known might slip away. Scared that this change in status might come with a change in heart. And honestly, that's what makes their dynamic so rich. It's not romantic, but it's deeply emotional. Ada has always relied on Jack in ways she couldn't even admit. And now, she's being forced to imagine a world where he might not be there. Meanwhile, George continues to unravel. His meetings with J.P. Morgan are getting colder. His confidence is slipping. And even the people closest to him are starting to look worried. There's a line in this episode where someone says, "A man with everything has the most to lose." And that hits hard when you think about George. He's built an empire, a name, a legacy. But all of it is built on a fragile foundation, one that's now showing cracks. He's not just writing stories anymore. He's preparing for a fight. And you know Peggy is going to be part of it. That subtle look they exchanged, that was mutual respect, trust, maybe even the beginning of a new mission. Because let's be honest, this season isn't just about rich people drama, it's about the world underneath it. The people whose lives are impacted by every decision the Russells make, by every headline that runs in the paper. And Fortune knows that. He's watching the elite crumble, and he's ready to shine a light on all of it. Peggy, for her part, is trying to stay focused. But that's hard when your personal life is unraveling. Her mother's silence, her father's betrayal, it's all weighing on her. But even in the middle of that pain, Peggy keeps moving, keeps pushing. Because that's who she is. She doesn't get the luxury of breaking down. She has to keep showing up. And that strength, that quiet resilience, it's what's going to make her one of the most important voices in the episodes to come. And finally, let's talk about the city itself. New York is changing. The skyline, the social ladder, the power players, nothing looks the same anymore. The old money is scrambling to keep relevance. The new money is rewriting the rules. And those caught in the middle, they're either adapting fast or getting swallowed whole. By the end of episode 6, one thing is crystal clear: we're not watching polite society anymore. We're watching a revolution in silk gloves. The drama is deeper, the stakes are higher, and the masks are slipping faster than ever. People are picking sides. Loyalties are crumbling. Secrets are bubbling just beneath the surface, waiting to explode. And if you think this was the peak, oh no, this was just the build-up. The real storm is still coming. And when it hits, the Gilded Age won't ever be the same again. Everything we've seen so far in Season 3 has been leading to this. Episode 6 wasn't just dramatic, it was a warning. Every glance, every whispered secret, every shift in power was screaming one thing loud and clear: the balance is broken. And once that balance is gone in a world like this, it's only a matter of time before the collapse. You feel it, right? That tension building like thunder behind a closed door. Let's start with Bertha. Because she's not playing anymore, she's strategizing. What once felt like petty social climbing now feels like military precision. The way she's maneuvering through opera politics, navigating social threats, even managing her own family's rebellion, she's doing it all without breaking that perfect posture. But behind her eyes, fire. Bertha has lost enough battles to know how this world works, and now she's writing her own rules. You either help her build her empire, or she'll build it over you. George, meanwhile, is walking a razor's edge. He's a protector, yes, a provider, always. But this season, we're starting to see the cracks. The pressure of his business dealings, the shady choices he's had to make, and the way his son is starting to reflect his own past mistakes. It's eating at him. George has always been one of the more grounded characters, but now he's being forced into decisions that might just shatter his own moral compass. And what happens when the man who was once your shield becomes a sword? Marion, oh girl. She's had the biggest emotional roller coaster of all. She's lost love, been betrayed, silenced, and shamed, but she's still standing. And more importantly, she's still learning. Because this world has been trying to break her down, fit her into a box, keep her proper. But Marion's spirit doesn't work like that. And that look in her eyes, after everything with Larry, that wasn't heartbreak, that was clarity. She finally sees this society for what it really is. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. Then there's Ada. Sweet, patient Ada, who's been silently absorbing everyone else's drama for years. But now, she's finding her voice, and it is not soft anymore. Her storyline this episode might have been quiet on the surface, but beneath it, a storm is brewing. Because women like Ada, when they finally snap, they don't scream, they shift. And that shift changes everything. Agnes, of course, is still holding on to the old world with both hands. But even she knows, deep down, that she's losing. Losing control. Losing influence. Losing relevance. And as painful as that is to watch, it's also powerful. Because the question now isn't will Agnes bend? It's what happens when she breaks. Let's not forget about Peggy. Her journey this season has been layered, and episode 6 only made it more intense. She's dealing with personal betrayals, societal pressure, and career ambitions all at once. And yet, every time life tries to knock her down, she stands taller. Peggy's not just surviving, she's evolving. And whether she knows it or not, she's becoming a force in this story that's bigger than anyone imagined. There's a reason Fortune respects her. There's a reason her words carry weight. She's not just a supporting character anymore. She's a symbol of change. As for the broader picture, the walls between old money and new money, between the haves and the almost haves, they're crumbling. Slowly, painfully, but definitely. The opera wars, the marriage plots, the whispered scandals. It's all part of a larger shift. The Gilded Age, as we knew it, is fading. And what's replacing it isn't just shinier, it's sharper. More ruthless, less forgiving. Because that's the thing about transformation. It doesn't ask for permission. It kicks the door down. This show isn't just about corsets and carriages anymore. It's about power, about legacy, about the cost of fitting in versus the price of standing out. Every character is now faced with a choice, conform or rebel, and neither path is safe. So what can we expect next? Expect fallout. Expect betrayals that cut deeper than before. Expect characters to flip the script, and some to finally stop pretending. Expect Bertha to become more dangerous. Expect Marion to grow more fearless. Expect the soft ones to strike, and the powerful to bleed. Because as we head toward episode 7 and beyond, one thing is for sure, the gloves are off. The masks are slipping, and this polite society, it's ready for war. And if you're still watching just for the tea, baby, you're not ready for what's coming, because this tea is about to boil over. Let me know in the comments, who do you think is about to fall the hardest? Is Larry done for? Will Bertha finally break the opera system once and for all? And do you think Peggy will step out of everyone's shadow and become the voice of a new generation? This season is not just drama, it's destiny unfolding. And we're watching it, moment by moment, twist by twist. So stay locked in. More breakdowns, theories, and emotional deep dives are coming your way. Because the Gilded Age, it's not done shaking us yet. If you're loving the drama, the heartbreak, and the chaos, hit that like button, drop your thoughts below, and make sure you stick around, because what's coming next? It's gonna change everything.